I think that we are live. I will say a little introduction here. I'm Ann Morris, Festival Director of the North Carolina Dance Festival, and we're really pleased to have many of our 20 choreographers for the North Carolina Dance Festival here with us tonight to answer some questions and chat a little bit about their work. And this discussion will be moderated by Jess Schell of Tobacco Road Dance Productions. So I will turn it over to Jess.
Thanks, Anne. Welcome to all the artists and all the audience that are live streaming here. And yeah, I am happy to be here, and I am happy that you all are here with us. So we had asked the artists to consider the question, what is something you have discovered in the process of making your microdance? And then I was hoping that we could hear from some of the artists. And artists, I would ask that you introduce yourself, and we can go. I mean, I can sort of call out the boxes maybe, or I can, it's probably easier that way since there's a lot of us, but I would love to hear what some folks discovered through the process of their creating their microdances. Sarah, you're the first box on my list, so would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Sarah Council. I am the Artistic Director of Sarah Council Dance Projects, currently located in Charlotte. And I really thought I was going to start with a specific process, and I really enjoyed scratching that and throwing it out and kind of following a more body-centered intuitive approach. So that was really kind of my curiosity into the project. That was really fun. And also I learned that making a 1-minute dance is significantly harder than like a 30-minute dance. Editing yourself down to 1 minute was a real challenge. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes doing something short is harder than doing something long because every second is right there. Okay, Sharon, you are next on my list. Welcome.
Okay, hi, I'm Sharon Price. What I would say is that in the process of working on it and thinking about the photographs, and like and knowing some of the people from the photographs as well too, and their movement. Adding some of that to the actual dance really gave me some other places to go with my movement and keeping it still in the African tradition.
Thank you. And I love to see all the different traditions that were represented in this short video. It was pretty amazing. Renee, you're next on my list.
Hi, I'm Renee Ahmiller, and I worked on this 1-minute dance film with Jen Guy Metcalf. And one of the things I actually discovered the value and the joy of working on and creating a smaller project. I've, in the past working on the larger, like 45-minute to an hour productions, can be like energetically and financially depleting. So it was kind of nice to just have the shorter, truncated experience with this.
Thank you. Michael, you are next.
Hey, my name is Michael Rank. I'm an artist in Chapel Hill. I think what was really rewarding for me was artistically to create a work as a virtual document. I think during this time when public performances already seem like kind of a distant memory, and alternatives often kind of are looked at as settling or maybe an inferior second choice. This experience really showed me that didn't have to be the reality or didn't have to be my reality. It was really a rich, creative experience, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Awesome. Thank you. Aparna, you're next.
Hi, I'm Aparna Keshavaya. I'm in Western North Carolina. I would say two things. One is I learned in post-production how to mask flip-flops I left in the frame. And two, it reinforced the fact that constraints can catalyze creativity. For me, that's the 1 minute constraint and the video format rather than live. But I think even more generally during this pandemic, I've found the time to really focus and develop new music for my dance, which is really important for me. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Robin, hi, you're up next.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, I'm Robin GM here in Greensboro. What did I discover? I discovered a lot of things, but I don't think it's really a function of making this work. Remember how much I am infinite collaborative, how much kinesthesia and kind of my own intuitions about things are critical when other people are in the room. So I just can't, I'm not the person that was being fabulously creative during the pandemic. I was like sitting in my living room drinking wine, like questioning my life. So this was exciting for me, and that I'm actually a filmmaker. I love the two dimensionality of screen dance. I like making stuff, and so it was really fun for me to also make 30 seconds. Actually, I didn't. I made a longer film, and I just whittled it down and down and down till it was 39 seconds, and that was really exciting and challenging.
Awesome. I love hearing how everyone's working within the constraints and how sometimes constraints can be a booster for creativity, or that you can find something in that. I think that's something that I'm hearing reoccur here. Taryn and Chris, you're next on the list. How is this discovered?
Hello, I'm Chris Yan.
I'm Taryn.
And I think something we discovered in working on this was that there is still kind of an immediacy and spontaneity to making this kind of work as there is with live performance, and that, you know, as we all know, that we're no less busy, even though we're all at home all the time. So it was kind of still finding that way for all the stars to align properly, to find that moment when, yes, we could go out and film these things, and then to coordinate like this like rapid process of processing and editing everything together. And then for the two of us too, learning in this process that it was kind of like there was a shift in our roles and governing aesthetics, and that was an interesting and dialogue shift for us.
Which means I got really bossy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of roles have shifted in the pandemic for sure, and in the creation process, I know. Kara, you are next on my list.
Hey, I'm Kara Hagen, and I don't know if it was so much a discovery. I just really enjoyed going through the photographs and remembering festivals past, and that the festival has been a part of my dance life for as long as I've lived here. I came here originally in 2001 to go to School of the Arts, and have been mostly in, some out ever since. And it was a fun project for me. I'm also deep in the screen dance world, and I love making tiny, tiny movies. So this was one in a slew of those, but a really fun one to work on.
Awesome, thank you. Audrey, you are up next. Share your discovery.
Hi, I'm Audrey Barron. I'm a dance artist in Charlotte, and sort of on the flip side of what Sarah said, I feel like you can have many, many minutes of footage, and to whittle it down or to find 1 minute that you approve of, it can be pretty difficult. And like the process of self-editing and just watching yourself move for a little bit of time was just interesting. It was also a great opportunity to reconnect with a musician that I really love. Yeah, it was just a nice, well-needed project at this moment.
Thank you. Love reasons to create. Kate, will you share your discovery?
Hi, I'm Kate Sugar, and I think this project don't know if it was really a discovery, but it challenged me in that I wasn't able to work in a really linear way that I normally would. I think, the editing process became part of the choreographic process rather than what I thought would happen at the very end. And so just challenged my idea of what is a timeline and how do I work, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the editing piece, that's part of kind of the choreography, the cinematography, and so I imagine that became a whole other element as well in this process. Jasmine, will you share what you discovered?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Powell, a Durham-based artist. I actually made a really big discovery in going into this thinking a dance film was going to be a product that is static in terms of it's held in one moment and you see it and then you don't. But my shift and my discovery was that what I created is still a living creature, and that the audience is living, the dancers are living, the music is living, the concept lives, and it continues to live even outside of the video being premiered and done and moved on to the next. So that was one of my big discoveries, and I had so much fun making this.
I love that idea of a living concept, Jasmine. So thank you for sharing that. Vanessa and Gavin, you are up next.
Hey everyone, Gavin Stewart here and
Vanessa Owen.
And we are the founders of Stewart Owen Dance based outside of Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, something we talked a lot about, I think similar to what Kate was saying, is how our choreographic process of creating the structure of the piece and the nuances and all of the fine tuning really happened for us in our editing process. And we left our movement creation a lot looser than we typically would, which was really fun and different for us. So, yeah.
Seems like, excuse me, a lot of the artists were stepping outside of their normal creative processes, which I think is really interesting. Jiwon, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Jiwon from South Korea. One thing I discovered from this project, it was finding connection with the artist in North Carolina. Of course, I had dance buddy Michael Rain, was so supportive. And also finding all the photos from the past dance festival before made me learn so much about dance style here as well, because from South Korea, dance style is a little bit different. So it was very valuable experience for me to learn more about dance style and artists in North Carolina.
Thank you so much. Vania, how about for you?
Hi guys, my name is Vania Claiborne. I'm an independent artist, choreographer like many of you guys. I'm in Triad. Mine was super simple. I think I discovered that I like prompts. I usually never work from them. I usually go into a project knowing what I want to do. So it was nice being challenged to be like, here are all these pieces. Let's make some dance. So that was cool, and I enjoy being able to still find moments to really tailor it, to really bring myself to the project at the same time, to have this disconnected piece that didn't come from my brain, but still be able to layer on myself. Super cool.
Thanks, Vania. Yeah, sometimes working from a prompt is so helpful because then you can just dive in. Nancy, will you share with us next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nancy Carson. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. I think for me, it was learning to let go of an idea if it wasn't working. Unfortunately, I tested COVID positive on the day we were supposed to start rehearsals. So I had to throw out everything that I thought and got my beautiful dancers together. And I'm so appreciative of them because we threw this idea out there and played with it, having just a very short amount of time to work. So for me, it was really just reevaluating and learning something new. And I hadn't planned on shooting the video myself, but I also found that I could do that, and it, and it was okay. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I hope you're feeling healthy again.
I'm great. Yeah, it's good.
Good. Ava, and you are up next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Ava Levon Vinisset, professor of dance in the Duke dance program, and also the co-founder of Indigo Yard Gals, an artist collective. To answer the question, for me, I typically don't enter into the choreographic process without having some seed of an idea in my head as to where I'm going to go, and like many others, I was really outside of my kind of comfort zone because, as I said, not having an idea and then having these pictures to provoke that process was very different for me. So, and of course, I'm sticking to the time frame, which I didn't do too well, but.
Thank you. I went down my list. Was there anyone that did not get a chance to speak about their discovery? I think I got to everyone. We actually have several questions that have come up into the chat. So I thought we would just sort of go down the list to engage with the audience members that have some questions for us. This first one comes from Glenna Batson. I would like to hear, well, she would like to hear about the way this idea took shape, the curation around the processes of dance makers and the collaging of the works. So that maybe is some for Hannah about the collaging of the works, and maybe Anne about how you chose who you invited to do this process. I feel like we talked quite a bit about the process of the actual artist, but maybe you want to speak a little bit about the process of how you got who you got.
Sure. Yeah. So there were a couple of different ways that we brought artists into this project. Typically, our festival process is that artists submit a work that they'd like to perform on the following season's schedule, and that we go through an adjudication process to choose who's going to be part of the season. And we went through that process in the early months of 2020. And so we had already selected a group of artists that we knew we wanted to have involved this season. And they got many emails from me starting in March and April where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Stay tuned. And as it started to become a little more clear that the way that we were planning the season was not going to be possible, and sort of alternative ideas started to take shape, I asked all of them if they, the artists that had been selected through adjudication, if they would like to participate in the festival in this way. So those were the first artists that we brought into the process. And from there, I invited other artists to take part based on a number of things. I wanted this to really feel like a collection of artists that spanned the state, that included artists working in different aesthetic perspectives, that were in different parts of their career, and just that I thought would really complement each other and provide a sense of the variety of artists working in North Carolina. And so I am incredibly honored and thrilled to have this amazing collection of artists here. So that was how we selected the artists. And Hannah, our film editor, has not been able to join us yet for this Q&A. So I'll speak a little bit about the process that we went through in pulling all of these dances together. Hannah she did a brilliant job of watching all of the micro dances and finding the through lines, finding the ways that gestures complemented each other or moved from one into another, or provided echoes. And so she put these little snippets together we had a number of check-ins over Zoom where she would share what she'd put together so far. We tweaked it a little bit, but really it was Hannah finding these moments that could really be a part of a conversation between all of you guys.
Thanks, Anne. Okay, people are asking so many amazing questions. So I'm just going to try to there's a lot of questions here. I'm going to try to go down the list, and some are to specific artists and some are a little more general. The next one, thank you so much for a beautiful show. Congratulations to the artists. It was wonderful to see all of the different dance styles and the various ways that each artist approached their connection to the images. My question is for Ji-Won Ha. Having lived in the US for a few years now, do you feel like your dance style has changed by living here? If so, how? And is that something you'd like to speak to?
Of course. Hi, Casey.
Thank you.
Good question. She's our colleague, Renee here too. We all work at Elon. Yes, I try to understand more of style here. It's so amazing that all different regions have different style. When I moved to Canada from South Korea, by the way, in South Korea, most of dance style developed from gram technique and plus Gaga. So I talked with Nancy before. In Greensboro area, there's not much gram technique, but I grew up with that and a lot of Korean students in Korea too. When I moved to Canada, I found out there were so many Limon technique, especially in Toronto. So it's very balletic and a lot of flow. But when I moved to Greensboro, I found also different style too. I would say more based on Cunningham, but it was also very interesting and for me, hard to learn in the first place. But I think that's the beauty of contemporary and modern dance, all different style. And I think I didn't change much, but I'm still happy to learn more about that. And I really appreciate dance project is during adult open masterclass. Was really good as well to learn about style here too. So the answer is I didn't change much. I still do really deeply because all Asian has really deep Achilles here. So I do a lot of jump a lot, but yeah, I'm happy to learn more about style here.
Thank you so much for your answer. Okay, Pixley Coffee to Sarah Council. You're a beautiful dancer. No question there, but
thank you, Pixley. She was she's that little that was in my dance making workshop this morning, and she also is a beautiful dancer.
Amazing. Yay to all the littles. To all, my mom wants to know if the choreographers or dancers were the ones who got to select which clips of their micro dance, which clips were going to be used in the final video. And was the majority of all of their original 30 to 60 seconds used for the final video? Does anyone want to speak to that?
I can speak briefly to that, just as an add-on to what I said earlier. The choreographers knew that we were going through this process where we would be taking what they gave us and we would be making something new out of it. So they knew that, but they did not select the parts of their dance that would end up in the final film. That was really sort of a process of how each piece fit together and how it worked with the other dances. And I would say that for most of the choreographers, only at maybe 20 seconds worth or so of their micro dance ended up in the final video. But we are sharing the full micro dances because those are also stunning, each of in their own way. So we'll be putting those up on our website as well. So if you're interested in seeing the full dances that these choreographers made, those will be available tonight.
Awesome. I can't wait to see all of the dances in the full. And the way that they were all strung together kind of reminded me of an exquisite corpse dance where it looked like they were all following the one before it, but I know they weren't that wasn't the prompt, but the way they were edited, they really did seem to all flow really well together. So I know Hannah's not here, but I want to say like congratulations on that editing process, because that was pretty amazing. Okay, from Lauren Joyner, what was it like to create this in the time of a pandemic? How did this influence your process? Also, she's interested in hearing the artist's process of how you chose your pictures. So if you want to speak to any of those, either about creating in a pandemic, how that influenced the process, or how you sort of chose your images, I would say we can open the floor to kind of answer if any of the artists want to answer any of Lauren's questions. If you want to unmute yourself or raise your hand.
I'll answer the part of the pandemic because I did have a completely different idea in mind. But when I was home in quarantine, I was feeling so isolated and alone, and, you know, talking to friends through my glass door, which is really where the idea of my microdance came from. So it was a completely different idea, but it was really about, it was more based on what I was feeling rather than the other idea that I originally had to work on. So it totally changed for me, everything.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to any of those? Oh, Robin.
I think I raised my hand for the first time ever. And the only reason why I wanted to speak to how we chose the images, because I think it ties in really beautifully to this 30th anniversary, in that I looked at all of the photographs with my dancers, and we chose them together. And, you know, having lived in Greensboro and worked with Jan, I found one of the most interesting and exciting parts of the process for me was sort of talking my dancers through the images, because 90% of them I kind of knew, or I knew a backstory. We could talk about Albin. Like they did it, my dancers are young. They don't know anything about the history of dance in North Carolina. So it's really fun and exciting. And yes, it's me, the infinite teacher. I'm constantly in these teachable moments, but I found that to be really exciting, to talk to my dancers about the images and about, you know, what dance looks like across the state, and then allow them to kind of inhabit that information in their bodies. So then I was originally going to do all of the material, of course, myself, but I actually let my dancers make the material from the images that we all chose collectively. And that's something that I never would have done, but I thought it was really exciting and kind of a testament to some of the work that the dance project has been doing for these 30 years. Like there was this huge story there were these stories that were in my body that were part of these images. And I thought that was very nice and exciting.
Thanks, Robin. I love that idea of inhabiting information in the body, and that you were able to access that from your dancers. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Maybe is there one more artist that wants to speak to this, and then we'll move on. And if not, then we'll just move on.
I would say Jasmine actually was my buddy in this, and she actually looked at the photographs, and the photographs that she picked were photographs that I thought I liked as well too. And so we looked at both of those together, and I said, I really like those, you know, what the ones that you chose. And what I would say about the issue of the pandemic, I knew it was really a different time when I was outside dancing on concrete, and wearing a mask at the same time, and wondering how in the world can I breathe through this, you know? And so that became a very difficult situation, you know, and finding breath, you know, knowing how to breathe and when to breathe. You know, we deal with that all the time when we think about the issue of dancing, how to breathe and when to breathe, you know, and not look exhausted while we're dancing, that we're performing. So I found that to be one of the hardest things to do, you know, just trying to keep breath.
Yes, Sharon. I mean, it's hard enough to find breath on a normal day, but when you're masked and dancing outside and dancing on concrete, I mean, it's all, you know, it just adds up. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat. There were some technical. Okay, another one from Lauren. Do you think that you will continue to work with the artists that you connected with in this process. So did anyone make a connection that they will continue forward through this process?
I definitely think that I loved working with Kate Sugar, and we had just a great time right away. We didn't know each other before this, and picking the pictures with her was so easy. And we just, I think I really appreciated the feedback of the process. And I think both of us realized and talked about that having informal ways of like meeting as, you know, as the two of us or just as a group of dancers in North Carolina in informal ways around feedback and around those kinds of things would be super valuable. And yeah, I definitely think that we will.
Thanks, Sarah. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to the connection you made and if it will continue after this experience? Okay. Oh, I see a hand. Vanessa?
I forgot how to use technology.
Real hands are fine. Our physical hands work just as well, maybe better.
Yeah, so our buddy was Pin Han, and she's in Taiwan right now. And it turns out that she is great friends with the directors of a festival that we're supposed to be a part of in Taiwan that got canceled, yeah, because of the pandemic, but it's hopefully happening in the spring next year. In any case, there's some sort of connection going on there that's really cool, in like a small world, big world kind of a way. So we're hoping that maybe the next time we cross paths will be in Taiwan and not North Carolina. So we'll see.
That would be amazing. Our big little dance world that we all live in together. Okay. I don't see any other hands for this one. Okay. There's one last question here from Chris Strauss. Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. Thanks for doing this. I would love to know if the artists knew ahead of time if their works would be spliced together and how this affected or didn't affect choreographic choices. So did you know ahead of time that the dances would be spliced? I see lots of nodding heads. Did that affect what your choice making? No. Yes, some yeses and some nos. Does anyone want to elaborate on that? Kate, do you want to, since you were or Ava, I see a hand.
Well, I was just going to mention it, you know, again, yes, we all knew that they would be spliced, and I feel like it didn't affect my process as much because one of the things that was also made clear was that each dance needed to be able to stand alone. And so we still had this arc of, you know, beginning, middle, and end to the pieces. And so, yeah, that's how I felt about it. It didn't affect that part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. Kate, did you want to speak? I didn't want to. Don't feel forced.
I actually felt that it did affect my choices because I felt like it gave me some freedom to step away from a kind of attachment to sequence that I would normally have. And knowing that even though it would at some point stand on its own, you know, I started to think of it as an arrangement of moving images since they were coming from images in the first place. So regardless of whether or not it would be, you know, spliced and mixed in with other footage or it would be standing on its own, I just felt, you know, some liberty from sequence, which is a departure for me.
Thank you. I think that goes back to the very beginning about like throwing out your kind of normal process and doing something a little bit different maybe. And oh, Anne has a question. Do any of the artists have questions for each other? So you can raise your physical hand if you have a question you want to ask any of the other artists. I'll open the floor for that. No burning questions.
I like to ask the question to Jasmine about how she ended up doing her piece in the middle of a road.
Yes, I can answer that. Well, I'll backtrack a little bit and share that my concept and idea for the film changed probably like 5 or 6 times in the process of creating this. And it sounds like everyone's had different iterations of it. I made it to the middle of the road because I was in the car driving, trying to find a location to film. My house wasn't doing it. I needed to be outside from the pandemic. I just needed to be out in nature. And out in Hillsborough, on these lonely roads, where hopefully nobody comes through, I had to time it perfectly on a Sunday morning when there were lots little cars. So cars weren't coming through. My biggest issue being in the middle of the road were the bikers who drive or ride by. They photobombed so many of my screens. So that was a joy, lots of editing there. But that's how I made it to the middle of the road. Once I got to the road though, that's where my concept really took shape. Being in the road by myself, having the space of the road, knowing where I was going and where I came back from, that the road actually has a lot more significance than I originally thought it would. So thank you for that question.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Sharon. Speaking about location, did any of the artists want to speak about, did your location inform what you were doing in a different way than maybe you had thought it would, or just how did your location kind of come into play? Because there were so many different environments and locations that was really kind of magical to see us travel through all those different places. Does anyone want to speak about their location and kind of what it gave you, or what you how you used your location? Robin again? Yes, I think I saw your hand.
Oh, sorry. No, because I thought it was really interesting. So I shot in a theater. I've never shot indoors before. And so for me, part of being in a pandemic was to challenge myself to do things that I would normally never do. If you've ever shot film in a theater with lights, it's really super challenging. But it was also kind of, it was really interesting. It was really interesting. And we discovered a lot being in like a black box. And sort of the choices that you have to make so that you don't see an empty theater, and how do you, but then we went back in and we lit the theater. So it's not in this iteration of the film, but it's in another iteration. But this idea of not shooting outside, we purposefully shot inside for lots of reasons, one of them being the pandemic, and challenging ourselves to shoot in a space that we live in all day, every day, but how is it transformed and transfigured in this new way, which is why we wore masks and you see the lines on the floor. And I thought that was a nice challenge for me. So that's me working out of my jam. It's not my back pocket dance to be in a theater, but I'm really lucky. We have a really great TV. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about lighting, actually, more than anything, like I learned a lot about lighting.
Yeah, and lighting can play such a huge part in live dance and also in dance film, because it really can tell an aspect of the story. Anyone else want to speak about location, or if you have a question for one of the other artists, that one is still going around too. Renee?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about location. Similar to Robin, we ended up shooting inside in a small corner of one of our offices. And it was really interesting to work with lighting, and it was so DIY, just how we had to like maneuver the lighting in a particular way just to avoid, you know, the shadow of the filmmaker behind you. But that really did take inform and shape the entire thing we did. Jen, who was videotaping, ended up, you know, becoming a part of the dance herself and flipping her perspective, because we really only had even less than 6 feet to work with in this space. So yeah, it was really fun. It was really interesting to work in that way, to work inside, but also in a very tight quarter, if you will.
Yeah, and that little corner, you know, a lot of it was like in that little corner that kind of I did not know it was an office just from watching it, but that makes total sense. Thanks for sharing that. Any other artists want to speak to your location, or if you have a question for someone else, you're welcome to raise that, or if you want to speak to location. Vania?
Yeah, I can chat just about location. So ran up on our location guerrilla style. Like we had this one place in mind, this like tore up graffiti box, and we got there and somebody else was like having an entire photo shoot there. So I was like completely hurt. We were gonna go. Like across the street was an abandoned like warehouse with like some graffiti on it. So it worked out, and made the mistake again of like choreographing barefoot in the house. And then like I was like, I want to add some texture to this shot. I wanna add some grit. And I was like, I'm wearing Timbs. Like I'm wearing like New York City Timbs. And it was like the best and worst decision to try to like shift weight on uneven ground. But I mean, I ended up being super glad about the project and learning like, okay, you know, the different things that can, if you want to accentuate a concept in the video with a location, the way that would inform dress or costume, if you're like thinking about that and how that might actually change up your sequence. And so there's a lot of like problem solving in the moment, but it was super fun. And if anyone wants to just dance in super heavy boots, you totally should try it.
Thank you for sharing that, Vania. Okay, we have a 1 minute notice coming up on time. So does anyone else want to answer the location question, or? Okay, I'm just wanting to be sure. And does anyone else want to speak to anything else that we haven't had a chance to speak to yet in this final minute? Well, I just want to thank, Jasmine, yay!
I just wanted to, before we close, I know that Sharon was my partner, my buddy in crime, as we created our work, but I didn't necessarily get to meet everybody else in the same way that I met Sharon and I knew Sharon before we were buddies. So I am open to continuing to work with everybody, and I would like to get to know you all more. So some of you I know, some I don't know, but I just wanted to put that out there that there's more of you I need to get to know. So it was nice meeting all of you.
Let the collaborations continue. And there's a big round of thanks coming Anne's way. So I just want to lift that up in the chat also. So everyone is saying thank you, Anne, yay. And thank you to all the artists, and thank you to everyone who's watching from home on the live stream. We appreciate your questions. Yes, thank you everyone. So exciting as we move on to the future. Everybody vote. I early voted yesterday. It only took me 25 minutes. It was amazing. Everyone was safe, and there was so much hand sanitizer, and then you get to keep your pen. So, you know, that was exciting. Yeah, so just thanks everyone for being here. And yeah, I think that wraps our Q&A.
Thank you so much for moderating, Jess. Thanks for the artists for being here. And thank you for trusting me in this experimentation, trusting me with your work and your vision. And I think that with the combination of all of you, we've made something really beautiful from all of your very beautiful work. So thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure to work with you in this way. And as Jasmine says, let's let the collaborations continue. So thank you.